as the community director or anywhere on campus representing the Black Student Union as its vice president of marketing. Come on up, Briana. Take a seat. Next, Sharon Ross is an associate professor in the Department of Cinema and Television Arts at Columbia College Chicago. She enjoys long walks past any monitor that is screening a favorite film or TV show. Her favorite pastime is binging on anything on Netflix, Amazon, or Hulu that allows her to escape her duties as a scholar and teacher, but not her duties as a mother because, as you know, parenting is always a joy. Come on up, Sharon.
Gotta stand up. Okay.
All right. Rock, paper, scissors. Whoever wins this one round goes first. Okay, so ready?
Doing 1, 2, 3?
1, 2, 3. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Briana's going first. Okay, Briana, tell me when you are ready to start.
Okay. Ready. So, it's really great seeing these films, because I really can relate my life to it. I grew up in a single mother, Black mother home, and she's Christian. So there's morals that you just gotta know that's just not right, and things that just don't fit at the moment. And I had the same situation that I had to come out to my mom. And she handled it exactly like Angela Bassett. She just pretty much ignored it. She didn't really say she didn't accept me. It was just more so like, oh my gosh. And it was more so of her saying like, I knew it, but I didn't want to believe it. And like everyone said in there, they said that it kind of just tarnishes your trophy of being that, like, your mom's product pretty much. So me coming out to her was just more of like, wow, what did I do wrong? Just like Angela Bassett said, like, what did I do wrong? And it took a toll on me that, like, why wouldn't she understand me? And why wouldn't she approve and really deal with me and just, like, accept that this is me? And still to this day, like, it's still an ongoing thing, but she's more comfortable. And it's really the time where you gotta understand that your mom is gonna have to be that person that's gonna be the kid right now at the moment. And you remember when you had to hold her hand walking across the street, now it's time to hold her hand because she's unfamiliar with it. So you gotta kind of take those baby steps of, okay, gotta work my way into saying, okay, this is my girlfriend. And you gotta be wise with saying that because, again, this is something that she's unfamiliar with. This is something that she's not really for. So trying to portray her, like persuade her and really get her to understand your standpoint, you really have to like take those baby steps for her to understand. And it's kind of just like a thing that it's just like when I grew up, I couldn't say liar, I couldn't say lie, but I had to say storytelling. And the reason why I say that is because, like, morally I knew that it wasn't right for me to come out to my mom. But I knew that that was me, and I had to do that. So just saying that, like, I had to take those baby steps of, like, let me see if I can figure out how to, like, for her to understand me and get to know me. So even right now to this day, like, my mom has crossed paths with, like, some of my girlfriends, but I never really took the time to say, hey, this is my girlfriend, because I was so scared for her to, like, judge me and just be like, no, I'm not for it. So what I'm trying to say is that comparing both of the episodes, it really shows that, like, you have to figure out when is the right time to approach your parents with certain situations when you know they don't really feel comfortable with it.
Okay, I'm right. So storytelling. First of all, that cute little adorable girl who was up here with me, not mine, she was the one telling us time to go. So thank you to her. She was helping in the booth, ready to go. So for me, these two episodes really spoke eloquently to each other, along with Parents from season 1 is one of my other favorites. And I always approach the idea of what does it mean when we say a show is award-worthy or quality-worthy, right? And so for me, these 2 episodes were quality in terms of relevance. And I think it's relevant, these 2 episodes, on 3 different levels, and then a 4th I'm gonna throw at you. So the first is that these episodes manage to resonate with many viewers who don't have these sorts of specific experiences, right? But most everybody deals with generational tensions. And most everybody at some point, even those of you in college, it's coming, have to figure out how to deal with your parents when you are also a grown-up at the same time. That is some tricky shit to deal with. So this is something more or less everyone can deal with. Second, there are then elements in both episodes that are more specific, that don't necessarily include everybody. And that's a gutsy move for a television show to make, to not try to be everything to everyone. So for the LGBTQ community, there is that lovely, all too painful, I would guess, message in Thanksgiving that there is never an end to coming out. There is no definitive moment, and they beautifully put her coming out to her mom in the middle of the episode instead of the grand finale, which I thought was a gutsy move. And then in religion, there's the specificity of being second-generation immigrants or being the parents of second-generation immigrants in the United States specifically. So that's another level of relevancy. It's a little more specific. And then third, and this is where shit can get really dicey, is that there are elements in both episodes that are highly idiosyncratic and really specific to the experiences of those writers, right? And that lends it a level of authenticity, I think, but it's risky. It's a little bit risky to do because you might alienate people who can't connect at that level. So religion is really much very rooted in Aziz's experiences, right? That whole eating bacon thing after his mom said, don't eat the bacon, and he did it anyway with that gleeful grin on his face. That happened to him. And he drew the story experience of his own personal experience with his mom. The whole idea of being a cultural Muslim rather than a practicing Muslim. That was something from his own life as well. And of course, we saw the very interesting acting techniques from his actual parents and his actual cousin in that episode as well. So real family members in the episode, and he co-wrote it with his brother to boot. The Thanksgiving episode has famously been discussed in the press as being very much rooted in Lena's experience, and she worked hand in hand with the director to get, costumes right and all that shit, it's good.
I'd like to kind of get into why is it so hard for the rest of us to accept things like that? I'm going to put myself on the pedestal, the white person pedestal. Why is it so hard in this country for us to accept people who are different from the people on the white person pedestal? I kind of want to go to you, Sharon, on this.
Okay.
Where do you think the difference is? And then we'll go from there.
Well, I am a white person on a pedestal right now, so that's kind of cool. I think the difficulty, I mean, I'm just going to be honest here. One of the things I was going to point out, because I got cut off so abruptly, was that there's a lineage here to the Cosby Show, right? And the Cosby Show in the 80s. And in the 80s, when Cosby came out, and yeah, I know, boo-boo, Cosby, all that's a whole other cinema slap down, that he was often accused of not speaking to the authentic African-American experience of the 1980s at the time. And there's a truth to that, right? He faced the burden of representation. At the same time, there were a lot of studies actually done, pulling the academic card here, that showed that white people who watched that show believed racism was over because the Cosby Show was in the top 10. And I think a similar phenomena happened when Obama was elected, right? Post-racial, racism is over. And now we're getting gobsmacked with Trump, my personal opinion. And there is a difficulty, I think, in 2 things. People who were already uncomfortable with such narratives and stories and unable to do with it, now feeling validated and ignoring those stories. And people, white pedestal people, quite frankly, who are liberal, feeling like, I did good, I voted for Obama and all that, and now going, what the hell just happened? I thought I did my due diligence. And not seeing that they ignored what had been happening all along.
Briana, let's
I mean, personally, I work hard, so that's all I know is work hard. But relating it back to the episode, when her mom said, "You're just trying to make it harder for yourself," and that really resonated with like a lot of people that are minorities. You gotta like you adding something to the fire of you being any minority, saying that you are gay, lesbian, transgender, anything. It's gonna be 10 times harder because people aren't comfortable. That's the case, that people are still not comfortable with it. So people knowing that that's a problem and that's like there in the air, I mean, of course I feel threatened. I mean, of course that's gonna be across my mind, but it doesn't stop me from like working hard and doing what I have to do, because again, the fight's gonna be 10 times harder than anyone else that's not a minority and that's not a woman and that's not gay. Like all of those things, like that you are already set back 3 steps for having those 3 things on you. So it's kind of like, of course it's a threat. I mean, definitely, but it doesn't stop me personally.
No, Sharon, as a white person on a pedestal, do you feel that threat, or do you feel some level of threat right now in society that may be different from the threat that Briana feels?
It is not Brianna's threat, I'll say that. I feel threatened as a woman, yeah, all the time, especially post-Trump. I feel threatened as a woman. I'm not going to go there exactly why, but it is kind of interesting to me that right now, I don't feel the female experience is being told in television all that well right now, post-Trump, that it hasn't caught up quite yet. And that's why the Thanksgiving episode in particular resonated with me, because it was finally a female perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that is just like, we can sit here and say that, yes, women are far beyond behind men, but that doesn't compare to this, your skin.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just like, I mean, people can sit here and say, like, women got it hard all around. Yeah, that's true, but there's bigger fish that we gotta fry. And it really, again, starts with that being a minority, being that skin tone.
Okay, I'm gonna give you some validity there, except that I don't wanna say that saying bigger fish is a dangerous place to get into. Different fish, sometimes bigger, it shifts. It can't always be one thing or the other in terms of what is the biggest problem in the room, right? That's what I think.
I disagree with that one. Because, I mean, if you walk in my shoes, again, I'm the triple threat. I got the lesbian, black, and being a woman. So, like, that's walking with that every day. I got to face everything. I never dealt with any racial issues until I got to Chicago because it's so segregated. And even though that I am a lesbian, I'm considered more masculine. So that's something that I have to deal with, too. I don't fit the norm. So, I mean, just saying, like, oh, women, there's no way to balance that. Fuck that. Yes, it is. Like, it's the truth that, like, black people or any minority in this room, Indian, Asian, we still get it hard. Like, it's still a thing. So, I mean, I really just can never sit here and say, like, oh, being a woman will ever be equivalent to being a minority. Like, that, it's just the struggles that we face, you won't understand. That I'm gonna say you won't understand because you don't walk this life every day. But I mean, yes, women, we do have our struggles, but it never will be equivalent to the minorities in this room and minorities all across the world.
I'll speak to you on that if we're talking ethnic, racial minorities, and gender sexuality as well. But at the same time, I'm not gonna say that Aziz Ansari's story is more important than a white gay woman's story. Right? So, I mean, you see the levels, the complexity I'm getting to here, that, like, it's the world as we live in it now likes to put us in very strict categories, right? That woman, LGBTQ, male, underage, differently abled, all sorts of things, discrete categories. What you just spoke, I think, somewhat eloquently, too, was the fact of the messiness, right? And then what happens is and this is the trickiness, I really think, when we start fighting about which category is more important or more impressed, it makes it difficult to have the conversation with each other. But at the same time, I'm full damn aware that white always becomes the norm and the unspoken. I don't know what to do with that, but what I like about this show is that it makes us talk about that shit, right? It doesn't trivialize it. It doesn't unmessify it. That's not a word, but
You're an academic. You can do that.
I can make up a word.
I'll throw this in that recently a friend of mine had 2 of his screenplays rejected by different, not contests, but different producers, by the producers saying, we're only looking for works from people of color, and he was a white man. And he did this angry diatribe on Facebook about it. And I was a little bit offended by it, but I was absolutely stunned by how many white men then immediately got into the whole thing about people don't understand white men are oppressed in this country nowadays because of politics. The point that I want to make on that is there's nobody that I know of who doesn't feel threatened by virtue of who they are in this current society. If you are white in this society, as Charlottesville taught us, I think, if you're white in this society, you can find reasons to feel threatened by the way other people look at you. Have we reached a point now where we've so stratified ourselves that by these threats that we feel, whether they're real or not, that it's getting harder and harder to communicate with anybody who isn't like us? Go ahead and think about that. What do you have to say?
For one, white men being oppressed.
We have a point of agreement here.
Yeah, that's one part where we agree. But personally, like, again, every group wants to feel, they want to say something. Everyone wants their voice to be heard. That's just human nature. Yeah. I want to be heard. You want to be heard. We all want to be heard. So we got to figure out what's the true problem. What's the root of this? And I'm going to go way back, way, way, way back. I'm going to ask people. I'm not going to really ask people, but like, you know.
Ask them.
Go ahead.
Has your family been stripped from their country and made to be worked on another country that they didn't want to be affiliated with in any shape or form? They were taken away from their land and were worked to death, no pay. That's called slavery. Was your family in slavery? And was your family still oppressed going on today? It's still a thing. We're still limited in every space that we're in, whether we want to face it or not. And I face it every day. I'm sure you face it every day. I'm sure everyone in this room that is a minority faced it in some shape or form. So the fact that we're gonna sit here and kind of just like, I mean, again, everyone wants to be heard, but we want to sit here and really hone in and say like, minorities are the ones that don't really need to be heard, or which group to be heard. I mean, it's dumb as fuck.
Yes, she is right about this, because here's the thing, and this is an example I'll give before you throw it to the audience. All American Friggin' Girl, that god-awful show, wonderful Margaret show in the 1990s. She was the executive producer of that show, but didn't have enough power, and they hired people who weren't Korean, but who were Asian enough to be on the writing staff, and it came out crap because they silenced her voice as a female showrunner and as a minority female showrunner in particular. So yeah, I get what you're coming from, that, there's plenty of white men out there who write awesomely and they write amazing shit, but when it comes to representing a story that is not yours, you lose the authenticity in that factor. You just do, plain and simple.
I think in both of those cases, I kind of pointed out in my diatribe on Facebook, my response to that was, those are both producers of works of color. You don't send your material to somebody who's not interested in it and then get mad when they're not interested. It just strikes me as a little self-defeating, okay? I want to throw it out to you guys. How many of you are oppressed? Oh, come on. You can put your hands up. I want to hear from somebody who feels some level of oppression. Go ahead. You want to say something? You got your hand up. Anybody, come on. I'll take any comment right now. Go for it.
What do you mean by society? Like rules and laws or just culture?
Laws, like as intimate as interactions between individual people and as esoteric as interactions between legislators, states, and other
Oh,
people
Lord.
are abstractly defined. Like any level that you choose to make your claim is what you believe society is, and then do you believe that it exists for like justice, equality, fairness, and goodness, or does it exist to make these divides that we're like talking about, these oppressive divides?
You are going all philosophical on our asses.
Have you
Yeah.
heard of white supremacy?
There you go.
Tell me how you feel this interacts with the question I had.
So okay. Well, definitely I would say those tools are made to oppress all the way, definitely. You ever heard of I believe it's called redlining? It was, yeah. Redlining? Okay, housing. So it stopped black people from getting into good neighborhoods, which made us stay in the hood. So yeah, it was that simple. Those little laws that was written, yeah, they were just to oppress us and oppress minorities all around. Even the Irish that came over, they had redlining for them too. They had to stay in one neighborhood. So it's just like little stuff like that. Those laws. There's no doubt about it that it's just to oppress. I mean, white people really want to just hold their power, and once that power is being threatened, all hell breaks loose. Like, oh, fuck that. No, we getting our power back. Like, no, this is ours. This is it. This is mine. And we're going to keep it that way. And that's something that, again, still holds on till this day. It's like, I'm not going to say like, oh, all white people. It's not, that's not even the case, but it's shown, even just by this election with Trump, that the racism, it's never left. It's never left. He was just the person to bring it out on the table and say, it's still here, and now people are threatened, and now people do not want people to like other minorities to come up and take their opportunities. That's why people are so mad about Hispanics coming into America, because they think they're taking all their opportunities. And I'm like, do you understand? Like, I don't know what you don't get, but it's just like, that's not the case. They came here for a better life that we promote in America. America's the American dream. We're a melting pot. We heard all that shit in elementary school, and the shit's not real. So it's just like, people come here for better lives, and when they get here, we're not shit at all. So those laws, those rules that society made up, fuck yes, it's fucking oppression, like all around that.
Yeah, what she said. Because truthfully, no, you see it in the episode. This is part of the complexity of your philosophical question, right? Is that what Master of None did in these two episodes was take the lived reality of these things and make it personal, right? And that is a gutsy thing to do, to put yourself out there and say, yeah, because, just even the throwaway line of Aziz Ansari talking to his parents and say, well, you weren't post 9/11 Muslim, you were different Muslim. Like, even that's conflated with legality and structure. And, I don't know. We all want to believe that this society was founded on good principles, but shit, I couldn't vote till 1920. I wasn't alive in 1920. Well, I'd look fabulous if I was born in 1920. But you see what I'm saying? Like, all men are created equal. And I think what Briana hit into really nicely here is that there's power over and there's power to, right? Those are very different things. And I do think, especially now, it feels like our country was founded on power over and ignored the power to elements. And I don't know that a TV show can like get us to these discussions of thinking about it, but personalizing it and making you feel like, hey, I connect in some way to this character and the shit they're going through. If that's all that happens, that's a step.
I'd argue a little bit differently, which is
I
we
know
like
you
to talk
would.
about our country. And the truth is, we're human beings and we're in this world. And you have to look at what are the fundamental aspects of human behavior or human nature to determine how You know, get rid of immigrants. You know, gay and lesbian should not have the same rights as everybody else. That's hate. There's no other argument. You know, it's like people who say, I have an argument about guns. All right, everybody should have guns. Everybody should, you know, have the right to have a gun. And it's like, well, actually, if you think of it this way, a gun's nothing more than a penis, right? And only half the people on the planet have those anyway. You know, if you, you know, every time I see somebody with a gun, all I think is maybe mommy will get you a penis for Christmas. But the point here is that these are, to me, gun control is aspects of hate. We don't want control because we want the ability to exercise our hate. And I think that that's just simply part of human nature, that we do that. We hate as much as we love, and we keep fighting, every one of us, every day with that balance. You know, thoughts? Anyway.
What do you mean that gun's a penis?
Freud. He's doing Freud.
Freud knew that.
He's doing Freud.
It's an example of physical power that men love to hand around. Look at the shape, for God's sake.
Okay, but show of hands here. I don't agree with him.
I don't have a snub nose. Come on.
I don't agree with him. Show of hands. I believe that hate is the absence of love and not,
Not an equal?
I don't think it's an equal. I think it's the absence of love.
How many think it's the absence of love? How many think
It's okay, raise your hand.
How many don't know?
as individuals, the one that we give power to? Okay, explain that a little bit more so these guys can fight with you. How many people in the room are immigrants? Just wondering. First off, I'm sorry for the way you're being treated right now. Because you're not being treated the way you would have been 10 years ago. I come from immigrants myself, so I've seen that. But for those of you, are there feelings, is there a difference in the way that you feel today than, let's say, you felt 2 years ago in this country as an immigrant? Do you feel different? Anyone? Go ahead. You do? Okay. What's going on? All right. To what degree is that you are being made to feel uncomfortable? I'm not talking about Trump here, but by the society in general.
Just like systemic, like we just really never really had a voice or somewhere. We always had, like, even from workers, we're going back to the days where we had to fight just to be treated fairly in the job. So we've always had to fight. Just like you said, minorities, but it's almost like accepted within us. It's like we know we have to fight. It's almost like, yeah, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I do have a low voice. Yeah. So we, you know, we knew we had to work harder. I mean, especially when you come from a different country. But we have that mentality, like we just know we have to. Like there's no, you're coming in here and it's like a great big, like, America is like, the way immigrants see it is just, it's a land of opportunity, but at the same time, it's to your own detriment. You got to come here and take the good with the bad, the ugly, and you got to take it all and, try to make something of yourself out here. At least, at least the opportunity is here. So, we do, but now we're starting to be, conscious about, oh, look, we still want to be treated like humans as well, and that's just for every immigrant that comes here. I don't know how it was back, like you said, it was different, but it's something that we have to accept, and kind of have to fight through that just to make it out here. But I don't, we Latinos don't really make excuses for it though. We still work, we still do what we got to do and we may not have as much as everybody else or whatever, but we don't make excuses. We were built for that kind of work. That's what we do.
Ron, can you say your question one more time again?
I don't remember.
Yeah. The last question that you said. I'm sorry. You said, did you say something about like how it's been a change in the matter of 2 years?
No, I was wondering how if people who are immigrants to this country, if they feel differently now than they did 2 years ago in terms of the way they're treated.
Okay, can I I'm not an immigrant, but no, I'm saying to answer the question. If you guys realize, if you turn on the news and you see that like all you'll see is negative things about specific races. When 9/11 happened, it was like Muslims, and then it was just like all hell broke loose. Like, and it's still to this day that one issue. It was like, we hate Muslims. We don't mess with them. Don't bring them in here. They're terrorists. And they said that was pretty much, it's not they're saying that, but it's just like, it's the ideal that Muslim equals terrorist, and no one else could be one. And then I look around, and we have things like the Las Vegas, Sandy Hooks. Not to be rude, but like, who did that? Who were the people that were affiliated into those dramas? So it's just like, we're sitting here and we're thinking everything is all dandy, but then it's just like the blame always turns around to a minority, some way, somehow. Even before the story actually gets the full story, it's always like, oh, it must have been a terrorist and that had to be a Muslim that did that. That's always the case until they figure out, it's like, oh shit, it's someone white. He was such a great person.
Misunderstood.
Let's pass the mic down quickly.
In Master of None, when they were talking about that around the dinner, they were saying I think the aunt and the mom of Denise were talking about how if this were a white person, we wouldn't be hearing that, or if Nicole were black, we wouldn't be hearing about this. What do you think of that?
Oh, the whole O.J. Simpson throwaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they were doing for the historical specificity of the moment. Yeah, I actually think that's true, quite frankly. And I don't think it was just about Nicole being white. I think about it was the fact that Nicole was white and married to a black man, right? If it had been Nicole was white and O.J. Simpson was white, that would be a whole different thing. It was about the fact that they were in an interracial relationship and that it was a white woman and a black man specifically. It's weird, that was one of the things that in Thanksgiving, I loved those moments like the Clarence Thomas reference and the O.J. Simpson's reference because it earmarked it, right? This is this Thanksgiving, and this is this Thanksgiving, and this is what we would be talking about. And it laid out that this was her family, that this was a family of black women that talked about these things, right? And that this was not, they always say, what are you not supposed to do at Thanksgiving? No religion, no politics, and something else. I forget what the other one is. Probably sex. But so you're not supposed to talk about those things. And clearly, they laid claim to that and said this is their story. So I don't know how I feel about that particular belief because we didn't get enough of the character's perspective on that issue. It wasn't an episode on that per se, but I think we got a sense instead that these were multi-generational African-American women who talked about these things and didn't shy away from them, and that the gendered issues mattered to them, and the intersectionality of gender and race mattered to them. So I really respected that. I mean, one of the things with Master and None that's always kind of goofy, right, is it's comedy, but it's really dramedy. It has these dramatic moments, and then these, you know, we were listening to like laugh out loud moments, right, where you almost are laughing over the next great line of dialogue. So it's a catch-22 in your dramedy, and you're roughly in the 30-minute realm. You can miss those nuances, but to me, that's what makes it feel like a slice of life, and it makes it feel more everyday to me, and then therefore more relatable beyond the immediate issue that might be at hand. That's one of the glories of it, is it's bizarre, but it's kind of banal, and it's charming. And it sneaks up on you, and suddenly you're thinking about issues, you hope you're thinking about issues that sitcoms don't usually make you think about, you know, at least not since the 70s, I would say, for the most part. I'm exaggerating, but, and showing my age.
Really need it. Okay. As a African American, well, I don't really need it, but hello, can everyone hear me good? Great. Okay. As a African American woman who is on the LGBT spectrum and born from a Muslim family, I just want to know from someone on the spectrum and someone not on the spectrum, did you have something big that you took away from this? Did this like mean something to you? Did this kind of strike a nerve? And if so, what nerve and why?
Personally, I'm gonna say the Thanksgiving episode what kind of struck my nerve, because I said it's very similar to my lifestyle, is that Lena didn't have the respect at first to walk her mom through what I said, walk her through the baby steps of coming out, because that's something we have to respect our elders, and that's a respect, that's a moral that we're supposed to have when you are grown up in a strict religious household. Like, it's just something you just have to deal with. And like I said, there's many morals in different religions that we have to follow and that we should just know. And what struck my nerve is that she didn't get it. Why didn't you get that your parents were so uncomfortable? They knew. And the thing is that parents have amazing intuition. They've been in the spaces that we've been. I don't understand what clicks in teenagers' minds or young adults' minds, but your parents know. They're not stupid. They know everything. So it's kind of just like you gotta kind of be like, okay, I knew that she knew, and I know this is taking a big toll on her. Let me really take the time to actually try to help her understand my lifestyle step by step. You can't just skip and say, I'm gonna bring a girl over, we gonna be kissing in front of my mom. It's just not right morally. It's not right personally, because she's Christian, and in this episode it portrayed that she was Christian. So like I would say personally, like I knew that just wasn't right. So that struck my nerve, because it's like, how are you so stupid to not realize that like this is something your mom is uncomfortable with, and she knew. You just gotta really walk her through it. And the fact that she just didn't get it, it was just like, what? Like, you should know. Yeah. Yeah.
That's a good trick, though. See, what resonated for me was kind of in a weird sort of adverse to that. Like, you know, I grew up in a really strict Roman Catholic household. I describe myself as a recovering Catholic still to this day. And I did I did that sort of shit with my mom, where I brought the troublesome person over, whether it was a boyfriend or a new best friend, and did it exactly like that. And I knew full well that I was doing it to get under her skin, and it was because I couldn't figure out how to articulate my political issues with the religion that I was facing, right? That I was having issues with that as an emerging feminist at that point in time. So it resonated with me on that spectrum, and so both episodes really resonated with me, of that push and pull with your parents, and that moment when you have to decide that you need to be yourself and figuring out how to do it without completely decimating your family. But also that sometimes, you know, let's be frank, sometimes you do have to walk away from your family in these circumstances. Sometimes you're not treated well.
I would
by
never
your
disrespect my
family when you
mom.
come out, or
I would
when
never disrespect my mom. Like, again, back into the intuition thing. My mom knew. Like, Lena's, like, her clothes were changing by the years. It's no way that your mom wouldn't have been like, maybe my daughter is gay. I don't know. And that's the same.
What if she'd kicked her out?
I mean, that happens. Yes, that happens. But you really have to, for your parents to really understand, because they think that it's a disrespect thing. They think that, oh, you chose this life. Like she said, black people, I don't know why, but it's just a thing. Like, if you want to not be straight and you want to do whatever, that was your choice. It was not you were born this way, Lady Gaga type feel. No, it's not like that. Black people think that it's just like, no, you chose to disrespect me. You chose to go against what I believe and all this stuff. And you chose. No, they don't understand that, especially older generation, like parents. My mom is 56 years old and had me when she was like 32. She doesn't get it. She won't understand it yet. But that's when you have to, again, your parents walked you across the street when you were a child. Now it's time for you to walk your parents across the street to understand you, understand your life, and understand your lifestyle. So I personally just like, I feel like she should have just, you can't walk away and just say like, no, F this is my life. I don't need to deal with this. That's not realistic, personally, in a black family home. I love my family. My family's everything to me. So if I walked away and was just like, I'm gay and I don't need y'all, no, that's just disrespectful. That's more disrespectful than coming out to me. So it's just like, let me help my mom understand. Let me help my family understand that this is me. But walking away from your family, especially in a black family, it's just plain old disrespectful. And they will never understand. They won't get the grip. They won't grasp it. In some families, they do. Like, you got to neglect your family for them to be like, oh, are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? No. And the black family is like, oh, you walked away. Cool. Exile. You're not a part of my family. That's how it is. It's just like, it's like, oh, you really want to disrespect me? Then go ahead. Disrespect me. And don't come back.
Well, we might fundamentally disagree with that. I've heard too much on abuse. On that note, we have to go. On that note.